Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
It's on. Good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Manillo, and I'm the lead counselor here at Fairport High School. And tonight I am joined by my colleague in counseling, Mr. Craig Howe, and we're going to be the moderators for this conversation tonight. We want to thank you first and foremost for tuning in to our Transition to College program. We are proud of this program and grateful to be able to present it to you this evening, although in a slightly different live stream format this year. So thanks for tuning in. We want to give a special thanks to Mr. Tony Exton for his help with the technology this evening. We also wanted you to be aware that the program is being recorded in order to post it for individuals that could not watch it live this evening. We also want you to know we want to hear from you, the audience. Please utilize the chat box feature throughout the presentation. We'll be monitoring that. And please ask any questions you may have for our panelists throughout the presentation. So really, the Transition to College program is really the culminating program in our comprehensive counseling curriculum. You know, starting sophomore year, we've had conversations each year individually with our students. We've hosted sophomore and junior parent nights. Last year, we hosted our guidance library orientation right before the shutdown and started talking with students about the college search process. We did virtual senior groups this year to talk about the application process. We host our annual college information night. And today and tomorrow are probably my favorite parts of the program, our Decision Day celebration, where we celebrate our seniors and the choices they've made for after high school. And a lot of what we do in our role as counselors is help students plan and prepare for life after Fairport High School. So this is one program aimed at that. We recognize that the COVID pandemic struck at a very pivotal time for our seniors as they were closing one chapter of their lives and really preparing to start a new one. It changed not just how students were learning this year, but really how the college search and application process went and really shook that up. Campuses were shut down, virtual visits became the norm, Zoom information sessions were a common thing, SAT and ACT dates were canceled, deadlines were postponed, and really college rules and expectations were shifted. The class of 2021 has impressed us in their ability to weather these uncertainties and all the changes and have developed skills and resilience that will be foundational to their future growth. Seniors, just know your counselors are very proud of you. So that brings us to where we're at right now. In just a few short months, our seniors and parents will enter a new phase in life that's going to be accompanied by new anxieties, new hopes, and new fears. So the purpose of tonight's program is to provide a firsthand account of what the first year experience looks like and discuss questions you may have about the transition from high school to college. We are incredibly fortunate to have 7 members of Fairport High School's class of 2020 back with us tonight. They have literally just finished or are just finishing their first year of college. And we recognize the impact that the pandemic has had on your first year, making it a truly unique first year experience. But we're hearing more and more from colleges about the ambition and goal to return to normalcy next year. So we hope our discussion can be about the traditional transition to college and touching on some basics of COVID. So with that being said, I'd love to turn the mic over to our panelists. I'll have them start by introducing themselves. If you guys can tell us your names, where you attend school, your major, and anything you're involved with. We'll start with there, and then we'll dive into some questions. Cool? So if you want to start us off? You guys can turn on your mics.
Hi, I'm Sophia Costello. I go to North Carolina State University. I major in engineering, and I'm on the cheerleading team.
I'm Owen Fowler. I am a biology major at SUNY Geneseo, and I'm in a fraternity on campus.
My name is DeMar Osborne. I go to Roberts Wesleyan College. I'm a forensic science major, and I'm on the track team.
Hi, my name's Emma McNally, and I'm at Finger Lakes Community College, and I'm a fine arts major.
Hi, I'm Lydia McNally. I go to Finger Lakes Community College as well, and I'm also a fine arts major. I'm not involved in anything at the moment.
Hi, my name is Eden Yarbrough. This past year I went to St. John Fisher College and was involved with the Teddy Dance for Love Club. My major is biology and exercise science, and I'm also transferring to UB this upcoming fall.
My name is Jason DiLorenzo. I go to Penn State University, and I have an intended major of supply chain logistics.
Great, thanks, guys. So we're going to start with our first question. So it wasn't long ago that you guys were sitting in the chair that a lot of our seniors are in right now, right? So I'm wondering, what were your biggest fears as you headed off to college, and how did you overcome those?
So just coming from a big school like Penn State, there was a lot of nerves on like what I'm gonna do to get involved and meet the thousands of kids that go there. And it was really about trying to make the big school feel small and do little things and get out there and meet new people at the same time. Getting to know campus helped too. I've been going there for a while, so I knew a lot, but going out and seeing new things and then meeting new people also helps make it feel like it just doesn't feel as big as it really is in reality. But the nerves went away after like the first week after I made friends and then settled in, and everything was good after that.
My biggest fear was definitely figuring out how to get involved around campus, and I agree with Jason. You just got to get out there. You got to meet as many people as possible, and just try new things out and put yourself out there, and you'll definitely find your niche no matter what school you go to.
My biggest thing was I knew going in that I was going to be full online and stuff, and that was a big change for me. Like, just starting at the end of the senior year, I was fully online, so it was a big change for me because I'm very schedule-oriented, and it was different, but I eventually got over it, and I maintained it, and it worked.
So for those of you who maybe went away and were living on campus, or in a different area, did anyone experience homesickness? And if so, how did you overcome that?
I thought that going so far away was going to make me miss home, but you're so busy doing other things that you don't really have time to sit down and think about how far you are. And even if you were like super close, you probably wouldn't see your family as much anyways. So, and you have FaceTime and Skype, and you call your parents a lot anyway. So I didn't really feel like I was, even though I was so far, I didn't feel like I was that far.
Sophia, how often did you come home, like during the school year? Because you were probably the farthest away from Fairport.
My parents came and visited in October, but I didn't go home until Christmas break, and then I went back in January and came back 2 days ago. So really only once, I guess, for Christmas.
Did anyone else experience homesickness at all?
There are definitely like a couple elements of being home. It's like you miss your dog, you miss your parents, but when you're at college, there's like this newfound level of freedom that you have that I think kind of counteracts a lot of the homesickness, because you're like, oh my God, I'm here. I can literally do whatever I want now. So that kind of helped with the homesickness a lot.
Yeah, I did experience homesickness, and even though I was pretty close to like home, because Roberts is like 30 minutes away from here, college is just like moving so fast. Like you can't have time to go home like every time you see your parents. So I use FaceTime a lot to talk to my parents, my sister, and that pretty much helped me get over it.
So I'm sure the parents want to know, how often did you guys call or FaceTime? Like what was it a scheduled thing? Like what worked for you and your families?
I tried to call my parents around once a week, usually on like Sundays or something, recap on like the weekend or whatever. It was good to talk to them when I would like be walking on campus. from wherever, but it was good to catch up with them and just tell them what's going on, keep them in the loop. FaceTime here and there, show them new things, my dorm or whatever. But no, yeah, I probably talk to them about once a week, sometimes more.
I think that for me, it was my parents usually calling me first, but like towards the end it was like mutual, but I probably texted them at least every day, but I didn't call or FaceTime them like twice or maybe 3 times a week, depending on what was going on and everything. But they were very understanding that I had a lot to do, so whatever I had planned, they kind of talked to me revolving around me, I guess.
So a quick text every day just to say, hey, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
And then maybe once or twice a week, a more extended conversation. Yeah, that seems like the norm. Everyone's nodding their heads about that. Okay. So you guys started to talk about this in the first question, and I know it might have been a little different this year, but how or where did you find your group of friends on campus? Like, how did you build a group of friends?
So I moved in, I believe, 4 days before classes actually started. So as soon as I got there, my quad, where all the freshman dorms are, everybody was just outside. It was beautiful out. And we have a beach volleyball court there. We have basketball court. So I was just out there, and then we were playing volleyball one day, and I just met 5 guys, and I had seen a couple of them on the Instagram and Facebook page prior to that. So I was kind of connecting the dots with that. And then we got each other's numbers or Snapchats or whatever, and then we just kind of did that every day. We meet outside, and then we'd go get food or whatever, play sports, and then those pretty much are my friends right now, my core group of friends from that.
So in the beginning, it was kind of hard to even find friends because all of my courses were online. Everybody was behind a screen, and all we had was a chat box to kind of communicate with each other. And it also it was kind of a diverse community. There's all different age ranges. So there's people in their 60s that were taking classes. So we really couldn't connect there. but I think by the end of the second semester, I've met a couple people in some of my design classes, at least, and we connected on Snapchat. We got on a group chat together, and we just kind of updated each other on our projects and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think if you are taking all online classes, it's pretty essential to get other people's social medias and that kind of thing.
For me, orientation helped a lot too with meeting new people, but also getting involved, like Jason said, it made things a lot easier. I did move home around the 3rd week, but I did find some really good friends that I still talk to this day on campus, which was really nice. And also, having friends, Fisher is very local, so a lot of people from Fairport from the high school went to Fisher, but it was nice to kind of meet up with them, give them a text and say, hey, do you want to have lunch or do this, and take a walk here, that kind of stuff. But it really helped, so I was able to meet their friends and they were able to meet my friends, and it kind of just snowballed into meeting a bunch of different people at the same time.
One thing that kind of stunk was that after about a week or so, you could kind of tell in the freshman quad, you could kind of tell the friend groups a little bit, and that's just in the one section of the freshmen. But from older sophomores that I knew, they said that most of their friends came from their in-person classes and people that they would sit next to. And I only had one in-person class first semester, so that was kind of hard to make friends. But it was weird to see everybody kind of it was crazy the first week, and everybody was out there nobody really knew each other. Everyone was bouncing around talking to each other, and then you could kind of see people walking in groups after a week, and then it just slowly died down, and groups would go out at a time, but it definitely wasn't as crazy as it was in the beginning after a week or so. So everybody found their groove, but it was kind of they kind of just like separated a little bit and all found their niche or whatever.
Did you feel like everyone was kind of came in the same boat?
Yes, everybody came in not knowing anyone or knowing like one or two people, and then ended up finding their groups and then splitting up like that. But yeah, everyone in the beginning was like just meeting each other like crazy and just talking. That was a fun week, and then everybody did their own thing pretty much after that.
So you guys said, some of you said getting involved on campus is like one way to make friends. Can you talk a little bit about how you knew like what was offered on campus? Like how did you do that? How did you get involved on campus?
In our dining hall at Geneseo, they always had posters for like intramural sports tournaments and a lot of stuff like that. So me and my roommates always tried to enter as many of those as we could, and then we would just meet people there. They were always at like night in the gym, so we would have like people come and watch and stuff, and it was just a really great way to meet people.
Yeah, in the first week, my RA would send out like an email pretty much every day just talking about new stuff you could get involved with, and some stuff was different than others, obviously, and I did a couple, like we had like tournaments, like spike ball tournaments, cornhole, and they just like had that out in the open, so that was fun to, because I wouldn't have known otherwise, but those emails helped a lot.
I was lucky because I was on a team, so those are kind of automatic friends, but you also kind of want to experience things outside of just your team because that's only one group of people, so we got a lot of emails as well, and I joined a cornhole league, so that was kind of fun. We met a lot of new people through that, but like even just walking around campus, the dining halls, you meet new people every single day, and going into college, a lot of people told me that the people you meet the first week that you're there aren't going to be your friends, like in the long term. And it was kind of hard to believe because that first week, everyone is just going crazy because everyone's in the same boat where they're not going to meet any friends, so they're just grabbing every friend that they can find. But it goes away pretty quickly because then everyone realizes like who they click with and who they don't. So it's definitely not hard to meet people, but it's hard to like figure out which friends you want to keep, I guess.
So let's talk a little bit about academics, right? Like a major part of college. Describe the academic rigor in college compared to what you guys experienced here at FHS.
So mine was a little different because first semester I only had one in-person class, and so all the other ones were virtual, and I think only one of my other classes I had to actually get on at a specific time. All the other ones were like, here are these deadlines every week or whatever, get it done by then on your own time, watch the lectures. So it made it good and bad because I like being on a schedule and it keeps me like in check, but it also, this type of teaching allows you to be more flexible and work on your own time. So I probably worked like 4 to 5 hours a day. I would go to this place called The Hub, and it's like, there's like a ton of food places and everybody sits there and does work. So I would do work there a lot on the classes that I had to do work for by the end of the week, but I would take the classes that I had to be on for in my room, and those weren't too bad. But then it was just important to keep track of like the other dates, like quizzes and exams. So I would print out all the syllabuses in the beginning and then like highlight the dates on a big calendar and then keep track of it like that, and then so you're not cramming in like a day before, study like 2 or 3 days ahead. That helps the workload a lot, so you're not like nervous about it. You'll be prepared. But no, yeah, that's how I went about it.
I went about it in a very similar way. I printed out like all the syllabuses and kept track of all the dates, but all of my classes were synchronous, so I had to log on every single day for that class at the specific time, like when the teacher would start the Zoom meeting. So that was nice because, like Jason said, what he was lacking, like I did have that schedule, which was really nice to keep track of. And all of the deadlines and stuff too. That was great that they all had that planned out as well. Obviously, like a lot of the teachers, like sometimes they'll get behind and be like, okay, like we're moving this to next week or we're bumping this a week earlier, so we know that we have to get through everything. So that was just a little bit of the change, but I think because at the high school, a lot of the classes that I took were the honors classes and the AP classes. So I really think that prepared me really well for all of the classes and the coursework that I had to do this past year.
In high school, I always had to kind of study and make sure that, like, in order to get good grades, I had to work for them. So going to college, it was kind of the same thing. But one of my roommates wasn't like that. She just got through high school not really ever having to do too much work, and she struggled because she actually had to study to get good grades. So I think that if you work hard and you, like, prioritize your time, it's comparable to high school as long as you, like, put the work in. You can't be lazy at all.
So describe your class schedule. Like, how many hours a day were you in class? How many hours were you studying? Like, what did a typical, let's say, a typical Wednesday look like for you during the school year?
For me on Wednesday, I would have 8:30 to 11:30 biology lab. And then so I would wake up, go to that, come home, probably take a nap or eat some food if I could. And I also had a class 2:30 to 4 that day. So I would be in class for about 4 or 5 hours on a Wednesday. And then after that, it was usually probably another 3 hours of like homework and studying on top of that. And then you finally get to relax at the end of the day. But it's definitely a lot more time that you have to put into school than high school for sure.
On Wednesday, all my classes were back to back, so I had to get up around like 8:30 to get to English at 9, and then like immediately after that at 10, I'd had to be in my next like class for bio. And biology did take like pretty longer. That was also my lab day, so that went from like 10 to 12. But and then after that, I would probably take a break and then work for a couple hours the rest of that day. But yeah, then in the evenings I would just go to work at Wegmans or something. But yeah.
What adjustments did you make as it relates to preparing for classes and being successful that maybe you didn't have to do here at the high school? What were some of those changes you had to make, if any?
So like the first week of classes for me was trying to figure out how each class runs and then setting my weeks up after that based on that. So the first week was like settling in and figuring out what I got to do when, how to do it, and then it was pretty much the same schedule every day for the rest of the weeks. So it took a little bit to get used to. Some days it was more in the beginning, some days it was less, and then I like evened it out so that each day I was doing something and staying active in the work, but it necessarily wouldn't have been done or had to been due that day, but I would just do it that day, get it done early if I knew I had something coming up in the week or whatever. But kind of the same approach I had in high school. If I knew something was coming up at the end of the week, try and do it early and get ahead and limit some stress.
So it sounds like taking advantage of time you're not in class or have an obligation as you're all nodding your heads, which sounds pretty critical.
Right.
It's not a matter of just showing up for the lecture, the next class period, and going from there. Okay.
Did you find you had way more free time or time outside of class than you had at the high school? Like the time you were in class was way shorter, so you had to restructure like that free time?
Yeah, it was definitely different because I wasn't going to class like on a strict time schedule, so I pretty much had to make my own type of schedule so that I would stay in check. But it's definitely, I had a lot more time than I did in high school because high school was from 8 to 3 or whatever, and sometimes in school or in college I would go later than that or start my days like a different time, so it's just trying to figure out how to use the most of the day, but sometimes it wasn't as bad at all.
Okay. So with my schedule, it's pretty irregular. but I was, with the extra time that I still had, I was able to do a part-time job and stuff. I was at home doing online courses, so I still had enough time to do a job nearby. So that's what I did with my free time, other than studying.
We've heard some students talk about each day having kind of a 9 to 5 mentality. So even if you were in class, Owen, for example, those 3 hours, you still were thinking 9 to 5. When I'm done, I got to grab a bite to eat, but then I got to go to office hours or a tutoring center or the library or wherever your sweet spot is to find on campus to be successful. And it looks like you're all nodding your head. So did you find that seems to be pretty true if you had that kind of full day mentality, even if you were only in class for 50 minutes that day? Okay.
Definitely. I definitely found that to be the most productive way to approach it, because at the same time, college is a lot of work, but you also need time to relax and you need time to like explore other things other than just your schoolwork. So definitely the 9 to 5 mentality, like you said, just getting all your work done in that day so you don't have to necessarily worry about it at night, is definitely a strategy that worked for me.
Great.
So I guess, talk a little bit about some of those resources that you use, academic resources that you used on campus, things that, seniors that are entering on a campus should know to like look out for, or seek out once they get to campus.
If you're struggling in a class, a lot of colleges, like mine did, you can reach out and get tutors or like peer mentors, they call them as well. But I think probably every college has them, and it's better to get help in the beginning than it is at the end of the semester when it's too late. So especially in like hard classes like the sciences or the math classes, once you fall behind, it's way too hard to catch back up. So if you get help in the beginning, it's so much easier to stay on track.
I definitely agree with that. We also had the tutoring and stuff, which was really nice. You could go on a part of the school website and, raise your hand and say, hey, I need help like with this specific class, and they'll set you up with someone. Also, librarians are super helpful when you're writing papers and stuff, which is really nice because when you have to find these primary, reliable, scholarly sources that your teachers are looking for, and you have no idea where to start looking, they can definitely help you with that and point you in the right direction. We also had the Writing Center, which was something at Fisher that I really liked. So whenever I had to, write a paper, or one of my classes the first semester required me, like one of our requirements was to have at least one meeting with someone from the Writing Center, and they would just, help you look over your paper, find any things that you needed like help on, and you could ask questions and, not even look over your paper, but just say, hey, like, this is something I've been struggling with, like, what can you do to help me, like, fix this problem so it doesn't happen in the future?
Most of your professors will probably offer office hours too, which I think is definitely something you should take advantage of. One, it's good if you're just struggling in the class, they'll give you help, they're always there to help you out. But two, it's also good for them to know your face and know your name. You don't want to just be a ghost sitting in their class that they never hear from. It's good if they recognize you, and then hopefully they'll like be more inclined to help you out if you need it.
Keeping communication keeping communication with your teachers, and like if you have an academic advisor, is like so vital. Like when I first started, I was having a tough time with it, just adjusting to online courses and stuff, but like just keeping in touch with my teachers, like having emails and stuff, and like just talking in class really helped with my courses and stuff and keeping up with everything.
Emma, can you explain a little more about what an academic advisor does? Like, when do you seek out an academic advisor?
So my academic advisor, he was a professor in the art department. It's usually someone who is a teacher in your major and stuff, at my school anyways. But they help you with your courses, like they help you schedule it out, and they just give you advisement for your classes and just catch up with you and see how you are doing in your classes. And like my academic advisor helped me out with like scheduling my courses to see where I was going, and like how I was what's the word, like going through my if I was still on course with graduating and stuff, and I wasn't. Yeah, it was just, he was very helpful with my stuff.
So how often would you meet with your advisor? Is it like once a semester?
During the first semester when I was struggling a bit, it was a bit more often. But like during the second semester, you meet with them like once or twice, and they just check in with you, and then they give you advisement for your courses.
So what aspect of the academic side of college did you feel the most prepared for and maybe the least prepared for?
A lot of the times, like the English and the social studies courses are a lot easier to be prepared for because it's stuff that you've done throughout high school. But I struggled a lot with chemistry because I hadn't taken it since 10th grade, and I thought that going into it I'd be fine, I would remember something, but I remembered absolutely nothing. So that was definitely difficult. So I wasn't really prepared for that at all. And going into it, I thought that it was going to be easier than it was. So I guess expect the worst, hope for the best, because it's definitely, sometimes it's not as easy as you're going to think it is. But the courses like English, when you have to write papers, you've been writing papers your whole entire life, so that I didn't find too difficult, and it's a lot easier to get help on that through like the advisors or the writing centers than it is chemistry when you have a night test the next day. You're not, you don't know what's happening. But yeah, that's what it was for me.
How would you compare the amount of reading and writing you had to do this year compared to what you experienced at Fairport High School?
I didn't have to do any reading, but the writing was probably about the same, if not less, especially with my major. It wasn't really, I just have to get those classes out of the way and then I'll be done with them. But I didn't have to read a single book all semester, so besides textbooks.
Yeah, for me, I didn't have to read anything, and I didn't have to write anything either. I took my English class over the summer through community college, so I didn't have to take that at Penn State. And from what I've heard from my friends that do take it at Penn State, it's way worse at Penn State. They have to write like pretty much a paper a week, and I had to write like 3 papers over the summer for my English class and got the full credits, and so that really helped a lot because I do not like reading and writing, and got that out of the way. So now I'm focused on more like my business classes and less on like the writing and stuff.
So for like my first semester, I had a class called first year seminar where the writing was like a lot. We had to write like a 3-page paper every week because like the teacher would give you like a topic and you had to write a 3-page paper on it every week, and it was like just an overload. But the reading wasn't that much.
The reading, yeah, there was not a lot of reading in my English class, at least. It was mostly, for every class, we had to read a short story a day or something like that, and then we discuss it in class the next day. I think I only had to do 3 full essays during the entire semester, and each one was like, I mean, they were all at least like 4 pages, but like they were all double spaced. They were all like font 12, so it wasn't horrible. Definitely the reading is much better though. It's not like a whole book.
At Fisher, they require you to take 2 courses in your first semester and your second semester that are different. So the first ones are called your learning communities. That was less reading, but a lot of writing. I did have the, 2 papers a week kind of thing, but those were short. But a lot of the final papers that I had to do were very long. And then for one of the courses that I had to take this past semester was the reading and writing course that we have to take at Fisher. It's required for all freshmen have to take this specific course, but it depends on what area you take it in. So there's a bunch of these courses that you can take, but they all are focused as reading and writing classes. So that was a lot of writing, reading. The last paper that I had to do as my final paper ended up being, I think, 21 pages. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Can you talk a little bit about what to expect, like in terms of classes? Like how are classes run in college? What were your class sizes like? Like how many students were in a class? And that might differ based on the colleges, obviously. But can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so my classes were pretty big. Sometimes if you didn't get into the Zoom right away, they would max out at I think like 500 or 600. And so you wouldn't be able to go in at that time. You'd have to go like 30 minutes later or whatever. So that was tough kind of, but normally it's in a huge lecture hall and that's where there's like more engagement and stuff, which stunk to do virtual. But something that the professors did that or didn't do, they didn't really remind you when like something was coming up. They kind of just expected you to know and read the syllabus and have that marked down. Whereas here we would review for like a week in advance and there's none of that. Like you learn new stuff like a day or two up to the test and then you just gotta know all that and study all the past stuff too and just be on point with all your dates and stuff.
That is so true. There's absolutely no review for any test, quiz, paper, anything that you have upcoming. It's very much so you learn everything, like Jason said, like right before the test, and you're expected to know it for that test and all upcoming tests that you have, because a lot of mine were cumulative. So that was also tricky, but also we would start new material that was in the next unit before the first test that we had. So we would start right before, we would start new stuff that wasn't even going to be on the test. That was, you know, like the next day. But my class sizes were very similar to the high school because I went to a very small school. So that was nice. There was a lot of class discussions, which were very monitored, which was great.
My class sizes were also very similar to high school, but one of the main differences was the difference in level of interaction, I guess, in the classes. The classes in college are very lecture based, not a lot of questions, not a lot of activities, just a lot of the professor just lecturing to you, and then you're expected to write it all down and memorize it because it will definitely show up on one of the tests, and if you miss it, like, oh well, sorry. So yeah, that's one of the main differences I saw.
In regards to size of class, mine was even tinier than being in high school. I don't know if it was just because of my major or just the size of the college at Finger Lakes, but my classes would be maybe max 15. It was very I was able to connect with my teachers more with that and stuff. I liked having the less student to teacher ratio.
Yeah, so with big classroom sizes, it's important to go to your professor's office hours and really meet each other because most kids don't do that. So if you're one of the few that do, you get a little higher edge than the other one. So I used to go to my one professor's office hours all the time. I would email him just for pretty much no reason, just checking up. And he ended up boosting my grade up at the end of the semester, which helped a lot. So checking in with your professors, whether there's big or small class sizes, but especially the big ones, because you're pretty much just a username that pops up on Zoom or whatever, and they think nothing of it. But if you're more than that, then that's a good step up.
Yeah, I'll go off of that. Going to office hours equals grade boost. That's pretty much it.
My science classes were pretty big, so my biology class was probably 400 kids, but then we also had bio lab, and it was probably 50, but every single week we got broken up in the same breakout rooms with the same kids, so it was me and 4 other people. So it made a really big class feel smaller because you were working with the same people, and then every week we had different presentations that we had to do. So you kind of got to know people by what groups they were in, what presentations they were working on and stuff like that. So there's definitely ways to make the bigger classes seem smaller.
A lot of my online classes had breakout rooms, so that's where they would throw you in with a bunch of other just random kids. And I think it's also really important, if you do get into one of those breakout rooms, or if you're in a small class in general, always have your camera on and participate a lot, because your teachers will notice and it does get reflected in your grade. And teachers do appreciate it when your cameras are on. Like, they just don't want to like talk to like a little camera image. But that's what's helped me through the semester too.
So my class size is similar to Fairport because I go to a relatively small school, and I have to agree that mostly science classes they're like they're like lecture based, so you don't have that much time to like ask questions and stuff. But the good thing for me is that if you miss something in the lecture, my teachers also post the lectures online. Only some of them. They post the lectures online, so you can go back online and watch the lectures and like retake notes. And another thing that my teachers do, they have like outlines that you have to finish. So like, it's based on the lecture today. They just like ask a bunch of questions, and you have to like go back and answer it from like the lecture that you have like took notes on. And that's pretty much it.
So shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about, for those of you that live, on campus, how did you find your roommate, and can you tell us a little bit about like the roommate experience?
Yeah, so I found my roommate on the Facebook page, and so all the freshmen are on there posting their stuff, and so I was looking to match with somebody. You can go random, or you can both select each other and then do it that way, so I did it like that. I talked to a few other guys, and so I settled on this one kid, and we moved in and thought things were good, and he was getting up and doing everything, and then as the semester went on, he just started going downhill, like would just sleep until like 4 p.m. every day and like go to bed at like 5 a.m. and like wouldn't leave the room. He never did his laundry once the whole semester, just wouldn't leave ever, and it was just like I hated coming back to my room so much. And so my close freshman friend, he was kind of going through the same thing, so we both talked to the coordinator of our building, and we were like, can we get out of here and room together somewhere else? So I was in an unrenovated dorm, and so the freshman dorms at Penn State, they're slowly renovating them, so we were trying to get out of the bad one and go to the good one. So we asked the coordinator if he can move us, and he moved us into the good dorm, and so it was just way better with my roommate now, and we go everywhere together, and it's way smoother now.
Looking back, was there a way that you could you would replay that, selecting your roommate, or was it just a circumstance of bad luck in that case?
Yeah, I would definitely pick a different one, but yeah, that was just a bad circumstance. I thought we were going to be good together. We had a ton of similarities and just ended up not being right, but I found someone and it all worked out good.
I also found I lived in a suite at Geneseo, a 4-person suite, and I found all my roommates on a Facebook group chat as well, and I got really lucky. They're some really cool dudes, and we do everything together. 2 of them are in the same fraternity as I am. And yeah, I got really lucky. Just a Facebook group chat. You can like scroll through, and people just say like what they're interested in and like what they plan to do on campus and like what they want to be in, what they want to join, and then you can just like Snapchat them and get to know them and hopefully make the fit that's best for you.
So my experience was a little bit different because my roommate did not have any social media at all, which I think is kind of weird. So my school, they made us fill out this like survey, like what do you think, like what would you look for in a roommate? So you filled that out, and like at some point they like matched you automatically with someone, and whoever you were matched with, you just hope and pray that that person is a great match to as a roommate to you. And thankfully my roommate turned out to be a great roommate. Like every time we go around somewhere together, like all of our friends, they say we're possibly like we have the best roommate relationship in the whole school. So pretty thankful for that.
I was kind of in the same boat there. We weren't allowed to pick our roommates at Fisher. We kind of filled out the enrollment profile, is what they called it. And it was kind of Match.com for your roomie. I did not end up looking out with the person that I was matched with, but I ended up moving home, so it kind of all worked out in the end.
So did any of you, when you moved in with someone new, did you lay ground rules or expectations? Like, how did you bridge kind of differences with that?
My original roommate, when we first moved in, we kind of like had the same, going into it, it seemed like it was going to be a good match because we all, when you want to room with someone, you kind of just make it work and you say like, yeah, I'm into the same things, even though you might not be. But she had an 8 a.m. Spanish class, and the deal was that if I wasn't awake yet, she would just have her headphones in. But there was one morning that she didn't want to follow that, and she just blasted her Spanish class out loud. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning. It woke me up. But when I asked her about it, she was like, yeah, I didn't really feel like using my AirPods, and I wanted to wake you up, so that's how I did it. So it really depends on the person, depends on their roommate. You can set ground rules, but if they don't, like, follow them, it's going to be kind of difficult to make that work. So, I mean, I would try, but if it doesn't work, then there's nothing you can do about it.
So this might look different with COVID, but it's Saturday night at 10 p.m. What are you guys doing?
So each weekend was kind of different for me. I was lucky to have a bunch of older friends that I could go to different things with because a bunch of the other freshmen that I knew, they would kind of just bounce around from dorm to dorm and get in trouble with the RAs and stuff. And so getting out of that and going downtown into like apartments and other places was good to get away from that. I would go to different apartments with my friends, some Fairport alumni actually, so that was good to meet up with them. Different like sporting houses that I knew people in, bounce around from there and then just walk. You kind of just go with the flow of the night, just walk around, see people and figure out where they're going and then all meet up. But yeah, each weekend's different. Just kind of go with the flow.
It's definitely good to make older friends because they kind of know what they're doing and what they, like what you should do, I guess. So making those older friends and being able to like follow under their lead is a good thing. Since I was on a team Saturday nights, we usually had games, and then afterwards we would all go out as a team to wherever we would want to go. But definitely making bonds with people that have been there for more than a year is a good idea to know what to do.
If like you didn't want to go out to a party with your friends or hang out with a big group, can you talk about like what was available on campus? Like, were there things to do that didn't involve partying or drinking and things like that?
So at the beginning of this first semester and like the quad with all the freshmen, we had a huge like what's the word? Like they played like movies, like big movies, and everybody would gather around wearing masks and we would just watch a movie. Sometimes if you didn't want to, they'd have that out Friday or Saturday nights. We also have like a room that has like a bunch of TVs in it and like a pool table, ping pong table, and like some games, and a bunch of people are in there, and you can go in there however late you want. So people that didn't want to go out would go in there, and it's actually pretty fun in there. So yeah, there's a bunch of different things you can do if you don't want to go out and party.
So for my school, like this like hall, we had a downstairs lounge area with like a ping pong table, and we also had like this huge TV there with like gaming consoles, so we could just go there and play games and like watch movies with friends.
All right, so we're going to move on to the rapid fire portion of the presentation. So I have just some questions for each of you to answer. I want you to answer with like the first thing that comes to mind, okay? So maybe we'll start with Jason this time and go down the line.
All right.
Okay. So give me your best answer. But the first one I have, what is a must-have for your dorm room? Or just your room in general?
I loved my experience at Fairport, so I had a huge like wooden thing done with like the big Fairport F on it, and I loved representing my school, so that was something I like to show off, and I thought it was pretty cool. So yeah, something from back home to show off, but also remember the good times back here.
Mine would probably be a cloth laundry basket because having one of those big giant plastic ones that get super heavy just not helpful when you have to go down flights of stairs. So I would say that would be my answer.
An air freshener because we were like, so we made our basement into like our own little like classroom area for college and stuff, and we'd like bring food down there and stuff. But like, after a while, like living down there, it's nice just to have an air freshener. Just they're only $1 at Wegmans. Just grab one.
I'd say a good comfortable chair when you're studying and stuff on your laptop, so it's sturdy, it supports your back when those long hours and stuff. That's a good one.
I would say small little storage bins to like put stuff in so your room isn't messy all the time.
I would say definitely some sort of mattress topper because a lot of the mattresses in dorm buildings are absolutely atrocious. So
Probably a big area rug because a lot of times the floors are kind of gross in the dorm room, so getting something that covers it as much as you possibly can is a good idea to have.
So then what was one unnecessary dorm item? Something you brought and you never used and just took up space?
My roommate and I both thought it was a good idea to bring a Wii, and if that's the case, if you like the Wii, then go for it. But it just sat there, and none of us played it ever. So if you think you're gonna use it, then bring it. But we ended up not even touching it. It was just stuffed in the corner, and we didn't ever play it.
My roommate and I got a Roku TV that we ended up not using whatsoever. Like, it just sat there and we didn't use it. Well, there's a big TV in the common room that we would just all go out and, like, watch movies on and, like, have movie nights and have popcorn and stuff. But we didn't use it whatsoever because if we were just watching something, it would just be, like, on our phones and our computers. So.
Yeah.
I bought like a ton of stuff to put on my desk, like organizers and stuff, and I didn't use a single one of them, so definitely not, you don't need as much as you think you do.
Favorite study spot?
At my school, they had like study rooms, like at the second floor of the library. So it was like a room just closed off with like the max capacity is 2 people, where it's really quiet up there and you can just study.
especially during weeks before finals, there was a lot of competition to find the study room. So at Genesee, I would just like wander into like a random academic building, and if I could find it like an empty room, that would be a blessing. I would just camp out in there and get some work done.
My library had whiteboard tables, which was really helpful for doing math and stuff like that. So definitely probably the library.
Car or no car on campus?
Car.
I wasn't allowed to have one, so no car, but if we were allowed to, car.
I also wasn't allowed to have a car on campus. Well, you could, but you'd have to park it like off campus somewhere. But I liked not having a car because it kind of forced me to like walk around places that maybe I would drive to. But it's a pretty big campus, but walking around, you always find some place that you didn't know was there or whatever. So I think it's it's all right. It's not too bad.
Best grad gift?
Money.
I'm gonna second that. I'm gonna say checks and cash.
Money.
Money.
So what money management system do we use? Do we have credit cards, checking accounts, Venmo? How do you guys manage your money when you're away?
So I have a checking account and a debit card, but I didn't use that too much because a lot of the stuff on campus you could pay with your like ID. It's called Lion Cash at Penn State. So my parents would put money on it every however long, but then you get like a discount every time you use it somewhere on campus. So I wasn't spending too much of my own money. And then obviously like the meal plan comes with all the food that you can need, but if you're getting like clothes or something, you could go downtown and use your ID and use the Lion Cash, but I didn't spend too much money on my debit card.
Mine was the same exact thing, but instead it was called Cardinal Cash. But I had my own debit card and stuff, but we just used the Cardinal Cash on campus because you could use it at the bookstore, but also at any of the cafes or diners too.
I moved off campus into like my own apartment after a couple weeks of being on campus, but my dad just kind of controlled like what went on my debit card and everything. But Venmo is definitely helpful too for when you're going out and splitting things with friends. That's definitely comes in handy a lot.
What was the most memorable experience from the past year?
Mine was probably one of the apartments downtown has like a big pool on the third floor, and towards the end, COVID restrictions started letting go and people were getting vaccinated or whatever, so everybody kind of started to get back to normal. And so towards like the last day before everybody left, we all like went to the pool and like grilled and stuff, and that was like a glimpse of like what it's gonna be like in a little bit. So that was good to hear that it's looking pretty good. So yeah, it was fun.
Winning the track conference championship with my team.
So we have just a few minutes left. I thought for the last question I'd leave you guys with, do you have any final advice for our seniors in the class of 2021? They've got 5 weeks left of their senior year.
I'd say really just cherish every moment because high school is gone like that in a flash, and then college is nothing like high school. You'll never have these experiences again, and honestly it does get a lot harder. There comes a lot of freedom after you graduate high school, but there's also a lot of stuff that you leave behind. So I would just say cherish every moment, like live in the moment, and I don't know, just take it slow. Don't let it go by too fast.
Go to concerts, go to orchestra concerts, go to band concerts, go to art shows, because that's all stuff like your peers are doing, and I think it's great just to have one of those under your belt. And if you haven't gone to a sports game, that's also really fun to go to. Just experience all that stuff too. It's a good thing.
Go into college open-minded. It's not what you think it's going to be, but it could be better based on what you make of it. So definitely go in with an open mind and be ready for anything to happen.
Yeah, I would say, like what Owen said, he couldn't have said it better myself. Cherish every moment, live in the present, and just be who you are and solidify that when you go to college, because there are going to be so many different people that you're going to meet that you have to, don't be fake. There's just no point to. You be very authentic and just be you, and that's how you're gonna find the people that you're gonna mesh the most with and the best with.
Go into college with an open mind because there might be a possibility that you might change your major because it's not what you thought it was.
Excellent. Well, we so appreciate you guys taking the time to come out tonight and talk with our students and with our families. And, we wish you an enjoyable summer and, a great sophomore year next year. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone for tuning in this evening. Have a good night.